one of the most high-profile and tragic legal cases in recent Hollywood history, just took a sudden and unexplained turn inside a Los Angeles courtroom. When you have a defendant facing double murder charges involving two of the most beloved figures in the entertainment industry, every motion and every hearing is scrutinized. But what happened on January 7, 2026, was not a standard procedural update. It was a complete upheaval of the defense strategy. Nick Reiner, the man accused of ending the lives of his parents, Rob and Michele Reiner, walked into court with one of the most powerful attorneys in the country by his side. 10 minutes later, that attorney was gone. This wasn't just a lawyer stepping down. It was an abrupt withdrawal by Alan Jackson, the man known for representing Kevin Spacey and Karen Reed. When a lawyer of that caliber walks away from a case of this magnitude on the very first court date of the year, it signals that something profound is happening behind the scenes. Today, we are going to break down exactly what happened in that courtroom, look at the specific legal implications of this withdrawal, and analyze what this means for a case that sits at the intersection of severe mental health struggles and a family tragedy that has shaken Los Angeles to its core. To understand the weight of this development, we first need to look at the atmosphere inside the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center. This is the main criminal courthouse in downtown Los Angeles, a place that has seen the trials of O.J. Simpson and the Menendez brothers. On Wednesday morning, the mood was already heavy. Nick Reiner appeared behind the glass wall. The descriptions coming out of the courtroom paint a stark picture. He was wearing a brown prison jumpsuit and had a shaved head. This is a significant visual change and marks the reality of his current situation. Just a month prior, reports indicated he had appeared wearing a suicide prevention smock, a detail that speaks volumes about the immediate concerns regarding his mental state following his arrest. Standing between Nick Reiner and the judge was Alan Jackson. For those who follow legal news, Jackson is a titan. He is a former prosecutor turned high-stakes defense attorney. He knows the media game, he knows the courtroom dynamics, and he usually stays on a case until the bitter end. He signed on to represent Nick Reiner in mid-December. That means he had been on the case for less than a month. Usually, when a high-powered firm takes a case like this, they spend the first few months securing discovery, setting up a media strategy, and building a rapport with the client. They do not typically walk away after a few weeks. But that is exactly what happened. Jackson, along with two other lawyers from his firm, Worksman, Jackson, and Quinn, went into the judge's chambers. This is known as an in-camera meeting. It is private. The public, the press, and the prosecutors are not privy to what is said. In that room, they were in there for roughly 10 minutes with Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Teresa McGonigal. When they emerged, the announcement was brief and decisive. Jackson stated to the court that his firm was withdrawing. The language used here is critical for us to analyze. Outside the courthouse, Jackson gave a statement that was carefully constructed. He said, "We feel we have no choice but to withdraw." He later added, "It is not possible for us to continue our representation." He cited legal and ethical reasons for this decision, but noted he was prohibited from discussing the specifics. Let's pause and unpack what legal and ethical reasons usually mean in this context. In the world of criminal defense, lawyers don't just quit because a case is hard or because the public opinion is against them. They are ethically bound to zealous advocacy. There are generally only a few reasons a judge will allow a withdrawal this late in the game, especially in a capital murder case. The first possibility is a conflict of interest. This would happen if the firm realized they had previously represented a key witness, or perhaps had some connection to the victims that was not initially apparent. However, given how high-profile Rob and Michele Reiner were, it is unlikely a firm like Jackson's wouldn't have vetted that conflict before signing the retainer agreement in December. The second and more complex possibility involves a breakdown in the attorney-client relationship. This isn't just about not getting along. In legal terms, this often happens if a client insists on pursuing a course of action that the lawyer considers illegal or unethical. For example, if a client insists on taking the stand to testify, and the lawyer knows for a fact the client intends to commit perjury, the lawyer cannot facilitate that lie. They have a duty of candor to the tribunal. If a client refuses to listen to counsel and insists on a strategy that violates professional conduct rules, the lawyer often has to withdraw. We do not know if that is what happened here. It is purely speculative. But the phrase "no choice but to withdraw" suggests an external pressure or a wall that Jackson hit, which made continuing impossible. It is a rare occurrence in a case this visible, and it leaves a massive vacuum in the defense. This brings us to the immediate consequence of this withdrawal. Nick Reiner is no longer represented by a boutique private firm. He is now being represented by the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office. Specifically, Deputy Public Defender Kimberly Green has been assigned the case. There is often a misconception in the public eye that moving from a private attorney to a public defender is a downgrade in legal skill. That is not necessarily true, especially in Los Angeles. The LA Public Defender's Office has a specialized unit for homicide and capital cases. These are lawyers who are in court every single day, who know the judges, who know the prosecutors, and who have handled more murder trials than almost any private attorney. Kimberly Green is an experienced litigator. However, the difference lies in resources. Alan Jackson's firm has unlimited time and the ability to hire private investigators, forensic psychiatrists, and jury consultants immediately. The Public Defender's Office is overworked and underfunded. While the legal representation remains competent, the machine behind the defense has just shifted gears significantly. We learned from the court proceedings that this swap happened so fast that the family likely did not know. When asked if Nick Reiner's siblings, his brother and sister, knew about the change in counsel, the new public defender stated, "We have had no contact with the family. We don't think they knew." This adds another layer of isolation to the proceedings. It suggests a fragmentation, not just of the legal team, but of the communication channels surrounding the accused. The family spokesperson released a brief statement saying they have the utmost trust in the legal process and will not comment further. This is a standard protective response. But imagine the emotional toll. They are grieving the loss of both parents, Rob and Michele, and simultaneously watching their brother navigate a complex legal system where his defense team is crumbling before the trial even begins. Now, let's look at the charges themselves, because they frame the stakes of this withdrawal. Nick Reiner faces 2 counts of first-degree murder. The prosecutors have attached special circumstances. In California law, special circumstances elevate a murder charge. The specific circumstance here is multiple murders. This is the legal mechanism that opens the door for the most severe punishments available. Life in prison without the possibility of parole, or the death penalty. There is also a special allegation regarding the use of a deadly weapon, specifically a knife. The medical examiner confirmed that Rob and Michele Reiner died of multiple sharp force injuries. The brutality of the alleged crime contrasts sharply with the public image of the family. Rob Reiner was a man who dedicated his life to making people laugh and think, from his days as meathead on All in the Family to directing classics like The Princess Bride and When Harry Met Sally. To have such a life end in such a violent manner is a narrative dissonance that the public is still struggling to process. The prosecution, led by the Office of District Attorney Nathan Hochman, is projecting extreme confidence. Hochman released a statement saying, "We are fully confident that a jury will convict Nick Reiner beyond a reasonable doubt of the brutal murder of his parents. Hochman is a newly elected DA who ran on a platform of being tougher on crime than his predecessor. He has restored the possibility of seeking the death penalty in Los Angeles, though he noted he would only seek it in rare cases. Whether this case, a double homicide of high-profile figures, qualifies as one of those rare cases remains to be seen. A decision hasn't been made yet. This brings us to the core of what the defense will likely be, regardless of whether it is Alan Jackson or Kimberly Green handling the case. The elephant in the room is mental health. It has been widely reported that Nick Reiner was diagnosed with schizophrenia several years ago. Reports indicate he had been taking medication, and there is a documented history of struggle with addiction. Schizophrenia is a complex, often debilitating, severe mental illness. It can cause hallucinations, delusions, and disordered thinking. In the context of a criminal trial, a diagnosis of schizophrenia does not automatically mean a person is not guilty. The legal standard for insanity in California is known as the M'Naughton rule. It is a very strict test. To be found not guilty by reason of insanity, the defense must prove that, at the time of the act, the defendant had a mental disease or defect that meant they was incapable of knowing or understanding the nature and quality of their act, or of distinguishing right from wrong. This is a high bar. A person can be schizophrenic, suffering from delusions, and still be found legally sane if the jury believes they knew what they were doing was wrong. The fact that Nick Reiner allegedly fled the scene after the attack and checked into a hotel in Santa Monica could be used by prosecutors to argue consciousness of guilt. They will argue that fleeing shows he knew he had done something wrong and was trying to evade capture. However, the defense will likely focus on the depths of his illness. The fact that he was in a suicide prevention smock, the reports of his history, and the sheer irrationality of the crime all point toward a severe psychotic break. This is where the loss of Alan Jackson might be felt most acutely. Building an insanity defense requires expert witnesses, deep dives into medical history, and a nuanced presentation to a jury that helps them understand the difference between a criminal act and an act driven by a broken mind. The public defender will now have to assemble those resources. There is also the question of competency. Before we even get to a trial or an insanity defense, the court has to determine if Nick Reiner is competent to stand trial. This is different from insanity. Competency asks, can he understand the proceedings right now? Can he assist his attorney in his own defense? If his schizophrenia is currently untreated or severe, the proceedings might be paused. He could be sent to a state hospital until he is stabilized. The fact that he was able to answer the judge in court simply saying, "Yeah, I agree regarding the new date," suggests a basic level of functionality. But that is a surface-level observation. The timeline has now been pushed back. Because of the change in counsel, the arraignment is rescheduled for February 23rd. This delay is inevitable. A new lawyer cannot be expected to enter a plea on a capital case without reviewing the evidence. This means we are months, potentially years, away from a resolution. We also need to consider the broader context of this tragedy. The incident reportedly stemmed from an argument at a holiday party hosted by Conan O'Brien. This detail anchors the tragedy in the very specific, insular world of Hollywood elite. It highlights that mental illness does not discriminate based on zip code or status. The Reiners had access to the best doctors and the best resources money could buy. And yet, the system or the treatment seemingly failed. This is a conversation that goes beyond the courtroom. It forces us to look at how we treat severe mental illness, even in the most privileged circles. The withdrawal of Alan Jackson also serves as a reminder of the volatility of the legal system. In high-profile cases, the narrative is often controlled by the lawyers. Jackson is a master storyteller. He knows how to frame a defense in the court of public opinion. With him gone, the media strategy changes. The public defender's office does not typically hold press conferences or spin narratives. They do the work in the courtroom. This means we might see a quieter, more procedural phase of this case, with fewer leaks and less spectacle. But Jackson did leave us with one final provocative statement. As he was leaving, he stressed, "Pursuant to the law of California, Nick Reiner is not guilty of murder. Print that." This is a reminder of the presumption of innocence. It is a lawyer's parting shot, reinforcing that despite the horror of the accusations, legally, Nick Reiner is an innocent man until a jury says otherwise. It was a professional sign-off, ensuring that even as he walked away, he was advocating for the rights of his former client. So, what happens next? Between now and February 23rd, Kimberly Green will receive boxes of evidence, police reports, crime scene photos, medical records, and witness statements from the party at Conan O'Brien's house. She will have to build a rapport with a client who is likely in a fragile mental state. She will have to decide whether to enter a plea of not guilty or not guilty by reason of insanity. These are two different paths. The prosecution will continue to build their case for premeditation. They have the knife. They have the timeline of him leaving the party, the alleged attack, and the flight to the hotel. They will look for motive, although in cases of schizophrenia, motive is often nonsensical to the rational mind. The tragedy of the Reiner family is now a legal case of the state of California versus Nick Reiner. It is a case that will test the boundaries of the insanity defense in the modern era. It will test the new district attorney's resolve on the death penalty. And it will be a painful, public examination of a family's private struggle with mental illness. The departure of a celebrity lawyer is a plot twist, yes, but it's also a signal that this case is going to be incredibly difficult. It suggests complexities that we cannot yet see. Whether it was a moral conflict, a legal hurdle, or a breakdown in communication, Alan Jackson saw a road he could not travel. Now, it is up to the public defense system to ensure that Nick Reiner receives a fair trial, and that the process brings some semblance of justice to a situation where true justice. The return of Rob and Michele Reiner is impossible. As we watch this case unfold, it is crucial to look past the headlines and the Hollywood names. At its core, this is a story about the devastating impact of untreated or unmanageable mental illness. It is a story about a family destroyed from the inside. And now, with the legal team reset, we are back at square one. The arraignment in February will be the next major indicator of where this defense is heading. Till then, the questions regarding why a top-tier lawyer felt he had no choice but to walk away will continue to hang over this case, adding another layer of mystery to a heartbreaking tragedy. The legal process is slow, deliberate, and often surprising. The events of January 7th proved that even in a case that seems straightforward on paper, the human element, the relationship between lawyer and client, can change everything in an instant. As more information becomes available about the psychiatric evaluations and the specific evidence the prosecution holds, we will get a clearer picture of the night of December 14th. But for now, the withdrawal of the defense team serves as a stark reminder that in the justice system, nothing is guaranteed, and the path to a verdict is rarely a straight line. We will be monitoring the docket for the February 23rd hearing. That appearance will likely determine the tone for the rest of the trial. Will the defense formally introduce the mental health diagnosis into the plea? Will the prosecution announce their decision regarding the death penalty? These are the pivots that will define the next chapter of this story. The loss of Rob and Michele Reiner is a cultural loss, but the trial of their son is a legal reality that must be navigated with precision. The shift from private counsel to public defense changes the optics, but the facts remain the same. 2 lives are gone, and a third is in custody. facing the full weight of the justice system. The withdrawal of Alan Jackson is just the first tremor in what promises to be a seismic legal event in Los Angeles. As we wait for the next court date, the focus remains on the investigation. Investigators are likely still piecing together the timeline of that Saturday night. The transition from a holiday party to a crime scene involves a sequence of events that the public still does not fully understand. What triggered the argument? Was there a specific catalyst, or was it the result of a long-standing deterioration in Nick Reiner's mental health? These are the questions the new defense team will need to answer to save their client's life. Not from a conviction, perhaps, but from the ultimate punishment. This case is far from over. In fact, with this reset of the legal team, it is effectively just beginning. The initial shock has passed, and now the grinding gears of the legal system take over. It is a process designed to find the truth, but in cases like this, the truth is often painful, complicated, and deeply unsatisfying. We will continue to follow every motion and every ruling as the proceedings move forward.